Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be doing my January reading vlog part 1. I'm restarting my reading vlog series. I think the last reading vlog that I actually uploaded was like back in October because November and December were just like super busy months for me. I do think January is gonna be really busy, at least the first half of January. It just starts slowing down towards the end of January for me. So you'll start to see my channel kind of going back to where it was pre-November. So if you've been following me since before then, you'll know what I mean. It's very different now than it was back then. But I'm really excited to kick off on my reading vlogs for 2021. I'm super excited that it's a new year. You guys have no idea. Last year was probably one of the hardest years for me. I know it was a really hard year for a lot of people too. And hopefully 2021 is going to be better. So it is Tuesday, January 5th now, and I'm gonna start off with the books that I'm currently reading. I usually read between about 1 to 5 books at a time, depending on like what mediums I'm reading. If I have a book that I can switch between the audio and the physical book, then generally I'll focus on that book. But my focuses this week are my physical books that I don't have access to the audiobooks. So I have audiobooks also because the job position I'm currently in, we just opened a new building and it's about 40 minutes from my house. So I have a lot of time to listen to audiobooks. Even though my focus is my physical book, I needed to have audiobooks also to read. And of course, depending on what my mood is, I might be in a different state of mind and want to read something different because I'm very much a mood reader. So I have 2 audiobooks that I'm currently reading, and then I'll talk about the 2 physical books that I'm also reading. The first audiobook is Emma by Jane Austen. So this is actually on my January TBR. I wanted to start off January with a good classic that I thought that I would really love. Jane Austen was an author for the longest while that I was skeptical of. I didn't know if I would like her books. I read Sense and Sensibility. I liked it. I didn't love it. And then I read Pride and Prejudice, and it took me a couple of tries to get into Pride and Prejudice. But once I actually read it and understood it, absolutely loved it so much. I love Pride and Prejudice so much. I've since watched like the BBC adaptation, like a 4-episode TV show. I've watched the Keira Knightley movie, and I've reread Pride and Prejudice, I think at least twice since then. And mind you, the first time I read it, I think was in 2019. So like 2 years ago. And yet I still absolutely love it. So last year I decided to continue on and read more of Jane Austen's books. One of my goals for this year is to read all of her books. And at the end of last year, I decided to pick up Northanger Abbey, which is her least popular book from what I've seen is Northanger Abbey. And I absolutely loved it. So I feel like now that I understand Jane Austen and how she writes, I could potentially really love her books. So my goal this year is to read the rest of her books and to reread Sense and Sensibility. So I decided to start with Emma. Pride and Prejudice, Emma, Sense and Sensibility tend to be her more popular ones. And I'm really excited for this. I'm about halfway through it now. So far, I'm really enjoying it. I really love Jane Austen's style, and I tend to like her books a little bit more on audio, which is why I decided to listen to the audiobook for this one. Also because I needed an audiobook, but obviously I have a physical copy of it also. So I might switch a little bit between the two if this is just what I'm in the mood for at the time. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. The other audiobook that I'm currently reading is a little bit more down my regular alley, and that's The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. So this is a reread. This is in anticipation of The Burning God, which I still have not got to because November and December were terrible for me. But I'm hoping in the first couple of weeks of January, I can finish my reread of The Dragon Republic that I started back in, I want to say I started this in November. Nah, I think it was early December I started this reread. It's an audio reread. I had planned to reread the physical copy. I just don't really have time for that. So I'm going to finish my audio reread and then I'm going to start The Burning God, and I cannot wait. This is one of my favorite newer grimdark fantasy series, and I'm really excited to see how it ends. So for my physical books, one thing I realized towards the end of December was that I was probably being a little too ambitious with my reading, especially because I put a lot of like high fantasy books, which I love high fantasy, don't get me wrong, but they can be difficult to read. So I wanted to read something that was just easy to read. So I decided to pick up From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this book won, I believe, the Best Romance of 2020 for the Goodreads Choice Awards. So I was like, it won Best Romance, but it's a fantasy book. I'm intrigued by this, and I had already bought this book previously for other reasons. So I decided to pick this one up, especially since it's often recommended to readers of Sarah J Maas. Her books are honestly very hit or miss for me, but a lot of the books that are similar to her books I tend to like, especially if I go into it knowing that it's romance driven. I'm not super far into this one yet, only about like 10% into the book, but so far I'm really enjoying this and I'm really excited. I don't know if I'm gonna finish this week. This is basically just when I'm really tired or really busy and I just want something to like relax with a cup of tea or like just get me into that mode where I can go to sleep soon. This is why I picked up this book, and so far it has been working for very, very well over the last couple of days, and I'm really excited to see where this is going because so far it's really interesting. It's about a character who is the maiden, so she's chosen to become ascendant, but she has to keep herself pure, and of course it starts out with her illegally visiting, I think it's a brothel. It doesn't really say, but it kind of sounds like it's a brothel. The beginning definitely hooked me, and I'm really excited to see where this is going. And lastly, I'm picking off back with a book that I started in October that I really want to finish. So last year I had a tendency to get really into a certain type of book to the point where I'd read so much of that type of book that I would kind of get sick of it. So there's a few books that as I was doing this with other books, I was in the middle of some like larger books that I still want to finish the book. I'm still really excited for it, but by the time I got halfway through it, I was out of the mood of reading that book again. So I decided to pick up one of those again that I started in October, and that's House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielinsky. So I never actually stopped reading this book. I just got really busy in November and December and didn't continue on. But last night I picked this up again, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I didn't read a whole lot. I only read like 5 pages or something like that. But these are, I mean, they're pretty big pages. So I'm about halfway through it right now, and it's fantastic. This is about a house that's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, and it's told in this like really convoluted documentary sort of style that I'm really enjoying. This is definitely one of those that it feels like nonfiction, but is most definitely fiction in the best way possible. This is another one that I really don't think I'm gonna finish anytime soon. This is definitely the type of book that I have to be in a certain mood to read, but every time I do pick it up, I enjoy it immensely. So it is Saturday, January 9th, and I know it's been like 5 days, not a whole 5 days. I wanna say like 4 days since I've last done a clip on this vlog. I'm kind of out of practice when it comes to vlogging. They will get better in the next few weeks, I promise. I might do a couple of extra vlogs just to get back into the practice. We'll see, maybe not. I did make quite a bit of progress on reading. Mind you, I was reading like 4 books at once, so I didn't finish any books, and it's also been like a super, super busy week for me, but I made a lot of progress in most of the books. So House of Leaves, I didn't make any progress in. I never got back to it. Like I said, it's been a super busy week, and this is the type of book I need to be in a very specific mindset to actually read, so I was not in that mindset this week. I made quite a bit of progress on both of my audiobooks. I'm actually almost done with both of these. For Emma, I only have about 2 hours left in the audiobook. I am really enjoying this, not as much as I expected to. I think maybe it's because I went into this book with higher expectations. I'm enjoying Emma as a character. I think she's a really interesting character. I'm not enjoying the romance, if that makes sense. Which, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like, I didn't really enjoy the romance in Northanger Abbey, but I loved Northanger Abbey. So I feel like I could still potentially really, really love this book, but I'm not sure where it's going. Like, I feel like with most of Jane Austen's books, I have kind of an idea where it's going within like the first 2 chapters or so, but this one I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure what the point of it is, so we'll see. And mind you, I only have 2 hours left of the audiobook. That's kind of weird, but I have enjoyed what I've read of it so far. When I'm just not in the mood for Emma as an audiobook and I want something a little bit easier to read, I pick up The Dragon Republic. I'm loving this so much. I have a little bit longer in this audiobook. It's like 5 hours left or so. It is a longer book though, so that makes perfect sense. And honestly, I think I'm gonna slow down a little bit. With this one, I have a hold on The Burning God for the audiobook. It says I'll get it in 2 weeks. I probably will start the book physically before I get the audiobook because I really do want to start the next book in the series. Like, that is like the main book that I want to read this month, but I'm gonna savor this series a little bit more because I absolutely love it. Rin is just everything, and I just love the characters in here so much, so much, and I'm really, really excited to continue on with the series. But like I said, slow savor. The one that is probably the biggest surprise surprise for me is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So when I last talked about this book, I didn't realize this is a vampire novel. Like, I was a good 5 or 6 chapters into this book without realizing that this is vampire fiction. I do think I like this vampire fiction better than most vampire fiction. It has a little bit more of a high fantasy feel to it, and that's making me really, really enjoy this. I'm so excited for where this book is going. Like, so excited. You guys have no idea. Now, there are some aspects of this book I don't love. There's a huge, like, internal monologue aspect of this book that I'm not loving, and I feel like if I listened to the audiobook of this one, it would really annoy me. But since I have the physical book, I'm reading this 100% as a physical book. I honestly kind of skip over sections, not like whole sections. Like, it'll be just like when I see like internal monologue section coming up, I'll like skip to the end of the paragraph, and if it seems like it's something that's just repetitive, I'll just continue on with the book, and there seems to be a lot of that. But I'm really enjoying this so far. I love the romance in here. I would consider this more of a romance than anything else. It is a fantasy book. Obviously, it's a vampire romance fantasy book. It's so good. I'm really enjoying this. This is like the ultimate guilty pleasure read for me right now, and it's really working for me. Like, I feel like if I wasn't reading this book, I wouldn't be enjoying half of my reads as much as I am right now, but I totally am, and I have the weekend off. So my only plan this Saturday and Sunday is to read this book. I'm almost done with it. I'm like right there. So I don't have that much left in it, but I'm excited to see where it goes, because there are some things, like, I feel like I know what's gonna happen, and I just want to see it happen because I feel like it's just gonna be so great. There are gonna be some reveals coming up that I'm just super excited for. So I finished From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. It's still Saturday, by the way, and like, I got to the end and I was just like, that's the end, because all I wanted to do was to keep reading this book. I was just like, I need more of it right now, but I had already read 600 pages and it was like done. The ending is weird. Like, it ends on sort of a cliffhanger, I want to say, but I don't know for sure. Anyways, I decided right after to look up the sequel, which apparently the sequel came out back in September, so it's available. So I ordered it from Amazon. It's arriving Monday, and I'm super excited for it. I really enjoyed this in a very guilty pleasure sort of way. Like, it was definitely the highlight of my week, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So it is Sunday, January 10th, and I kind of finished Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this is the sequel to From Blood and Ash, which I finished yesterday, and I know I said I ordered Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, and it's showing up on Monday. Well, it's Sunday evening, afternoon, whatever you want to say, and I finished it. Because yesterday, after I ordered it, I was just like, I kind of don't want to wait till Monday, because Monday I have to work. I don't have to work Saturday night or Sunday, so I got the Kindle edition. In the meantime, I was just like, you know what? I'll read like about half of it on Kindle, then when I get it on Monday, I'll finish the rest of it. Nope, I read the whole thing on the Kindle edition, and I don't even regret it. I will say, it picks off right where From Blood and Ash left off. Like, right where it left off, and I loved every second of it. Mind you, I will say it's a teensy bit a letdown after From Blood and Ash, because the majority of this book feels almost like it's I don't even know how to explain it. The romance feels like it got a reset at some point, because like at the end of From Blood and Ash, you kind of feel like the romance got to a good place, and then the beginning of Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, it's like there was a reset, and suddenly they were not in a good place romantically anymore. So like, that is kind of weird, but at the same time, I still really enjoyed it, and there are some really good action scenes, especially towards the end. But I will say, I still had issues with like the internal monologue, which I think was actually worse in the sequel than it was in the first one. I think the first one, it didn't annoy me as much. In the sequel, especially at the beginning, the very beginning, oh my gosh, I feel like I skipped like pages of just words that were just repeats of the first one, which, I mean, I realize sometimes authors redo a summary of what happened in the first one, but like, oh, it annoyed the crap out of me. But I still really enjoyed the actual like story. I do wish there was a little bit more plot, if that makes sense. It's very much hauled up in the romance and the romantic relationship, which is fine. Like, I consider this a romance series, even though it happens to have sort of a high fantasy feel to it. It also happens to be about vampires, but it has so much potential to actually be a great fantasy series that it annoys me slightly that it's so held up in the romance. I expected to be more romance family going into it, so like, I can't really say that I didn't enjoy that aspect of it, because I enjoyed it immensely. Like I said, ultimate guilty pleasure series to me. It reminds me a lot of the first first time I read the Folk of the Air trilogy by Holly Black or A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Like those two series that are like ultimate like guilty pleasure series for me, that's what this series reminds me of. And I'm really excited for the next book in the series. Like super, super excited for it. It's coming out in April. I already looked that up and I will 100% be getting it. I really, really enjoyed this second book in the series. It was such a great installment. I like where it ended. Like the very, very ending of it was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. Just enjoyed it so much. I will say I do think it's a bit of a letdown after the first one. Just a teensy bit, especially like the first half of it, but I still really, really enjoyed it and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. So cutting in really quickly as I'm going to edit this vlog, I realized I did finish one more book this week. This morning, I finished Emma by Jane Austen, which I did enjoy this. Not as much as I was expecting to, because I felt like I wanted to like this as much as I liked Pride and Prejudice, but I felt similarly more to Sense and Sensibility. Towards the end, I actually did start enjoying the romance aspect of it. I think what I liked the most about this was just Emma's character, but I felt like I didn't get as much character development from this one as I did from some of her other works. So while I did enjoy this, it was definitely not one of my favorites by her, so I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. And since it's Sunday, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. And if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.